Hi, I'm Len Goucher. It's August the 8th, 2009, and I'm here on the site of the Rocky Lake Rink site on the Bedford Common with Gary Hines. Gary, I guess the last time we were here was July the 29th, and on the surface, quite a bit's been done, but also we're currently standing inside the dressing room area, the electric room, cold room as well for the compressors. Maybe in brief, in the last couple of weeks, you can tell us what's happened, and I know August is going to be a very important month for us as far as construction, because we've had a lot of bad weather. June and July has been very wet. Maybe you can give us a brief overview as to what's going to be happening.
Well, Len, any project that has a large electronic and mechanical component, a lot of work takes place that the average layman considers irrelevant and immaterial, but when you get on a site like this, there are miles of pipe underground. I think probably somewhere around 10 miles of pipe when you consider the conduit as well as the pipes for carrying cooling fluids. So most of the work that's taken place since we were here last, we were then on the outside looking in. Today we're at least on the inside looking out, and that's a positive. So the siding's gone on, the building's done in terms of siding. The roofing has been done, and also all the piping and underground work is pretty well done, and only just a short bit of infill remains to be done. So we'll take you around the site and show you a few of the areas where we've been doing those jobs.
Sounds really great, Gary. We look forward to it. Also, just very briefly, the dome, just as a point of interest, is scheduled to be put up fairly soon. Maybe you could just briefly go over that process and what's going to happen after the dome goes up.
Len, we have one small section of the perimeter pad to pour, and then we'll be able to go ahead and put the dome up. And the dome then will protect the piping, the miles and miles of piping that are going in for the cooling system, and it'll keep the temperature constant so that you don't get expansion and contraction in that application. So that's what we'll be doing over the next week. I suspect the dome will be up by the next time you see us here on site. And in fact, we'll endeavor to get here when we have the outside basically finished so that you can see exactly what the community is getting.
Will the concrete floor now be poured after the dome is up?
The concrete floor over the ice, or where the ice goes, will be poured after the dome is up. Reason being is temperature control. We don't get bad weather, and we don't get highs and lows of temperature. We can control it with the inflation unit, which has a heating component.
That's great, Gary. So let's take a look around, and we'll have a brief look at what's happened in the last couple of weeks.
All right, Len, if you just want to scan around the inside of the dressing room, washroom building, you'll see pipes sticking out of the ground. They're everything from washroom pipes to electrical, and you can zero in right in front of us where we're standing, and you'll see that's where the electrical box will sit in the building. The electrical panels will be directly behind that. All the pipes coming in are carrying everything from the red lights of the goals to, I guess, the scoreboard. And then as you zero over to what would be your right, you'll find the bigger pipes which carry the brine. They're now insulated, which was part of the process. You insulate those to carry the temperature constant on the brine. And those then feed outside into what is known as the dome. So, Len, we'll carry on outside, I guess, and show people what's going on outside.
It's great, Gary. Away we go.
Len is now focusing on what we call the header trench. This is where all the collection of the pipes coming in from the brine surface for the actual skating surface will be collected up, and they will then be fed into the two large pipes that you see at the end of the header trench. The brackets in the bottom of the header trench are support brackets for pipes, and that's where all the collection unit will be installed. Len is then going to show you the area that is unfinished in concrete that leads to the entrance to the dressing rooms. This isn't poured because it's just this week we've been able to complete the pipes and backfill it and compact it. So it will be done early next week and just before the inflation of the dome takes place, or the reinflation of the dome takes place. If Len swings over to his right, you'll see the entrance to the dressing room area, and that's in that little alleyway there is where the airlocks will be that allow entrance and exit, and making sure that the one door is closed while the other is open, so we call them an airlock. That actually allows the dome to remain inflated while we exit and enter the dome. Len and I are now standing on the bank overlooking the full site. Len's going to zero in first on the propane tank setup that actually feeds the heat that will eventually heat the interior of the dome. And then directly behind the propane tanks you'll find the inflation unit, which is a series of fans and also a heat circulatory system that will heat the dome and keep the dome inflated. He'll then swing around and show you the doors that are standing in place that will be tied into the dome when it's erected. Then he's going to scan around on the actual ice surface and then swing over to the framework for the Zamboni room. And directly behind the Zamboni room is the actual dressing room, washroom component that we've been working on for the last 3 or 4 weeks. You can also see from up here that the work on the roof, the sealer compounds and so on are being put in place, and eventually that roof will be tied in with a nice blue stripe that is consistent with the colors that we've adopted for the project. Over the last week we have also put the finish coat of gravel on the driveway that goes around the dome and allows fire access and safety access and egress from the site. That's all done now and up to grade, and we're ready eventually for topsoil and some sodding around the perimeter to smarten the thing up. And the parking lot is also on the far side where the excavator is now setting. When he scans around you'll see an excavator there. That's where most of the major parking will be as well. So I think you can see that we've come a long ways in the last month and a half, and I think we need a vote of gratitude to Dayco and Randolph Coombs, who was the owner of Dayco, and also for Harbour Construction. Both of those gentlemen have been very generous to us in construction of this project, knowing the costs and knowing how important it is to the community. They've really done their part, and they've come in under budget in most instances. Some things they have no control over, and they still do their best to do that. So we're very grateful to have those two contractors doing our site work.
Hi, it's Len Gaucher and Gary Hines once again, Sunday, August the 9th, here at Center Ice at the Rocky Lake rink site. Gary, thanks very much for taking us around.
Len, we are at Center Ice, and at 62 I was just thinking about digging the skates out and the hockey stick when this thing is completed, and Sidney Crosby doesn't need to be shuddering in his skates by any means, but I'm looking forward to doing that. But I was also thinking that 2 words would describe today. One would be tranquility, and the other would be beautiful. And I think this is the first time that I've used beautiful to describe this rink site. Others have, because they see the beauty in it, but really today when it's quiet, nobody working, you can see the beauty, the tranquility, and you can look forward to excitement very shortly when the kids will be playing on this ice surface.
You know, Gary, I still think back to last October when we had the thing, we called it the first pour, and how far the organization has come. And look, congratulations to you, Randolph Coombs, Chair Barry Mason, and the board. You've all done a wonderful job. And once again, from the Rocky Lake rink site, Len Gaucher, Gary Hines, Sunday, August the 9th, with a short update. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks.